Hello, Barry Ryan there in England. How are you this morning?
Hey, Nick, I'm really, really well. It's a lovely, beautiful grey sky, and I'm on my third cup of tea. How's it over there?
It's a bit early to be on your third cup of tea already.
No, I'm a teaaholic, Nick. I haven't been for many, many years.
You're the typical Englishman then.
Well, I just love a nice cup of tea in the morning, and then another one, and then another one. It's just one of those things.
Are you into the exotic teas or the standard English breakfast?
No, I like a lovely bottom-of-the-barrel Tetley's Dust. My wife drinks kind of, rat and raspberry and all kinds of weird things, but just give me a good old cup of PG Tips or Tetley's.
Same here. I love my cup of tea. I have at least, I have at least 2 or 3. But anyway, look, let's get on to you and your pop star career, but also we're going to talk about your photography as well. First thing, we're going to go right back, and I normally ask the person comes from a musical family. Now, we know your mother Marion, was a big pop star, well, mainly on TV in the 1950s. So I just want to ask you, was there music in the home? Was she singing? Because when you and your twin brother Paul were born, was she an established singer already? Or
No. My mom didn't really get started with her singing until we were sort of 5 or 6 years old. She was just a shop girl from Leeds, sort of working in the local store, and she got discovered one night at the local Mecca ballroom. They asked people to come up and sing, and she got up for a dare. It's the old classic thing, Nick, and she literally got discovered there, and then went off and made her career. So we were brought up actually by our grandparents, Paul and I. And Mum used to come back and see us very often, but she made it really big when we were sort of 7 or 8 years old. She had her own TV show, which actually was a really big success. She was one of the first kind of girl stars at the time. And so we had this showbiz family we came from. She kind of pushed us into it a bit.
So was your father musical as well?
No, he wasn't there. He left home when we were 4. We never really saw him again.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it was just one of those things. So we didn't really know him.
Your grandparents were musical?
Yeah, they were, actually. Yeah. They were. I mean, my nana loved to sing. She had a fantastic voice. My granddad didn't, but she was fabulous. And we always had music in the house all the time. There was always a radio going or the record player going, or we were all kind of young fans anyway of the sort of Elvis and the Beatles, so we were all playing records. There was always lots of music about, Nick.
Was it just you and your brother? Did you have any other siblings?
Well, we've got 3 girls in the house as well. They were sort of stepsisters from the first marriage of my father. So there were lots and lots of kids around, and always lots of nice sort of parties going on. It was a happy house.
Were you and Paul already, obviously you're making music in the home already, when did you think about maybe having a career like your mother? Or was it like a normal thing to do? My mother's a famous singer, then I'll be like my mother.
Well, I think it was a bit of each, Nick, actually. When we were 16, we left school. We didn't sit for exams or go to university. It's not the kind of stuff you did then from we were from a very working class background, so we didn't our family didn't sort of think like that. You went off and got a job. So we actually went off to Israel, Paul and I. God knows why. We have no idea why. We just thought it was a good idea. My mum did. And we went off there for a year, and we actually joined an English pop group when we were 16 and toured all over Israel, sleeping rough and kind of sleeping on the beach and in people's houses. And it was just like a really mad time. So we got all our sort of experience from that. And then we came back, and we were actually quite tight on stage by then because we'd been singing for our supper, literally. And then when we got back to London, we couldn't think of anything to do, quite honestly. We were pretty useless, to tell you the truth. So my mum said, look, guys, why don't you, you've got good voices, let's see if we can get you a record deal. And it sort of started from there.
Who was the band that you were travelling with in Israel?
It was an English band called the Sing Sing. We all used to go on stage with sort of outfits with kind of hours on them, like from Sing Sing prison. It was completely surreal. And these were all guys in their 30s, real hard-drinking sort of East End blokes with a sort of alcoholic saxophone player. It was just a mad band. And they picked up me and Paul and took us under their wing. We were kids. And we all got on really great. And it was just kind of... We actually went out there to go to school, but we kind of bunked off after 2 weeks. It was too much like hard work. And like I said, we joined up with this band in Tel Aviv and stayed with them for the whole year until my grandmother actually came out and rescued us and brought us back.
So obviously your mother had contacts, being a star herself. Is that how you got your leg in?
Yes. Yeah, she was She was married to a guy called Harold Davison, who was a very big impresario at the time. He was managing Sinatra and Ella Fitzgerald and lots of really serious people. So, the family had a lot of influence. He had a very big agency here, and he looked after Tom Jones and Engelbert and a lot of people. So it was a bit of you scratch our back and we'll scratch yours kind of thing. So we were kind of, we had a bit of a leg up, Nick, the truth, and, we got a lot of stick for that at the time.
Were you and Paul writing songs yet?
No, we were singing. We just had a lot of people writing for us, and we just used to show up at the studio and hear the song and sing it. It was very much that kind of, moulded thing. We just got given songs and you listen through them. They were chosen for us. We didn't really have much say in the matter.
So who was in charge of your career?
Well, really my stepfather, Harold Davison, was sort of looking after it. He picked the music with my mum, and we sort of took it from there, really. But Paul wasn't happy, he didn't like touring. He didn't like being on stage at all.
The Israel experience.
He was quite a shy guy, Paul. He didn't really like that end of it. I loved it. I was a bit of a show-off, so I kind of liked it. One day he just said, right, that's it. I'm not going to do this anymore. I can't do it. We were working literally, Nick, every day. We had Christmas Day off, literally, for 2 years. So we actually did something like 600 or 700 days of solid work. And he just said, look, I've had enough. I don't like it. I'm going to write. I think I can write. I've got that feeling that I can sit at a piano and be creative. And you do the singing, Barry. So that's how it all started, really.
I've got down here the Two of a Kind album, which has been re-released by Revolver. So is that the only Paul and Barry album, or did you do more?
No, we did a couple of albums. In fact, there's some actually quite nice tracks on those albums. I was listening to some the other day, funnily enough. I mean, there's a lot of real dross as well. And a couple of them are really sort of hilarious. But there are some actually quite good, very 60s psychedelic songs on them. I thought some of them were quite good.
You released quite a few singles. I've been doing a little research of my own, and typical internet, there's different information from different websites. But I've got here that you and your brother did about 10 singles. Does that sound right?
Yeah, about that, yeah.
You started off with Don't Bring Me Your Heartaches. That was the first single released on Decca, and I've got 22nd of October 1965. Obviously, that was one that your stepfather chose.
Yeah, well, actually, funny enough, we chose that. We kind of liked it. I think it was Les Reed wrote it, and it was just a really good pop song. And we did it, the very first TV show we did, Nick, was Sunday night at the London Palladium, which was live, had like sort of 15 million viewers. We're on stage singing live, the two of us, with our knees knocking together. There's actually a video of it on YouTube. If you look at it, you'll see Paul and I are sort of more or less fidgeting. We're actually shaking with fear. It's quite funny, actually.
Paul lasted for, 3 years, from 65 to 68, when he called it a day. So it sounds like it was a whirlwind, a typical 60s pop star whirlwind with all the accoutrements. Would I be right in saying that, Barry?
Yeah, it was. We travelled everywhere. We actually came out to Australia in Japan. We went to America. We did Hullabaloo and Shindig. And the thing is, looking back on it now, and we came from a showbiz family, if you remember, so we were pretty grounded. It makes me wonder how, kids now can sort of kind of keep their head on their shoulders and sort of deal with the reality of it now. But we were particularly young. We were, if you look at the dates, we were sort of 17, so we really were kids.
You told me in an email that you came to Australia way back in 1968, so any particular or fond memories, Barry? Do you remember the cities that you visited?
Well, we went everywhere, really. It was a tour with Dave D, Dozy Beaky, Thingy and Thingy, and there was the Yan Animals. I think Joe Cocker did some of the shows as well. And we just travelled all over. We went to all the big cities, we were in Melbourne, we were in Sydney, Adelaide. We just went everywhere. And then we went out to New Zealand. And it was a really, really, I remember it being a really nice tour. We did kind of very big stadiums, or kind of huge halls. It was it was great. We were, like I say, we were sort of young guys, and we just had a fantastic time out there.
Did you have days off where you could go see a bit of the city?
No, we didn't actually, Nick.
No.
It was one of the typical tours where you sort of worked every single day, finished the show, went back to your hotel. One of the things I've always hated about touring is you're never actually there. It's hard to explain. You just you try and grab some time to see things, because being a photographer, I like to get to the other side of things now. But in those days, you literally just went to the gig, came back, had a couple of drinks, and had a little party in the hotel and went to bed. Again, and you did the same thing day after day.
So is that why the rock stars, they always start their show with "Hello Melbourne" or "Hello Sydney," just to remind themselves where they are so they don't get it wrong?
Yeah, basically, yeah. Or they look at the bass player, he's normally got a stick-it on his forehead with a name written on there and his own name. Sorry, bass players, I didn't mean that. Yeah, you kind of don't really know where you are. And of course, all the hotels are the same, the food's the same, everything just feels the same. It's not what people think. It's really kind of quite hard work, actually.
Did you visit America as well as Europe?
Yep, we did. We did a big TV tour and hit more or less every state in America, including Hawaii, and just travelled everywhere doing shows.
Tell me, do you remember the moment when Paul came up to you and said, Barry, I can't do this anymore?
I do remember it very well, Nick. He basically had a breakdown, Paul. I mean, he just kind of just quit. And what he did was he actually cut his hair really short as a sort of protest. It was really quite amazing. He said, I can't go on stage and I've got short hair. And he just said, look, that's it. You know, I'm not comfortable. I've got to be honest. I don't want to let you down, Barry, but I've got to be true to myself a bit because I can't cope with this. So basically, Nick, he had a bit of a breakdown at the time.
Not uncommon.
Yeah, exactly.
Not uncommon, but especially back in those days.
I think people kind of forget that, you know, we're young guys. We're not very cerebral in that sense. You know, we don't sort of rationalise things. We just kind of get out there and do it. And you kind of get caught up in the whirlwind of it all, and you lose your sort of sense of reality a little bit.
You guys, as a duo, I think you'll release some great songs, some great singles as well. And we've got a young girl called Claire here at the station. So I just wanted to ask you about Claire now. Was that one of Paul's songs or was that a cover?
No, all the stuff we did together, Nick, on our albums together. Paul didn't start writing till Eloise till sort of 1968. So those first couple of albums were just, you know, very well-known and established songwriters, some really good writers.
Where did Claire come from? Do you remember?
The song Claire, yeah, that was a nice song, actually. I mean, we did some of these big ballad kind of. Some of them are a bit iffy.
It still works today, I think.
Yeah, it's a good song. It's a good, solid, you know, pop song. And this was the time of the Walker Brothers, remember? So some of these songs have got that kind of influence. I'm trying to sound desperately like Scott Walker on a few, failing pretty miserably. I mean, funny enough, there's a couple of songs in it by who was at the time Cat Stevens. Paul was sharing a flat with him at the time, and he wrote a couple of songs. He wrote Keep It Out of Sight. He wrote Wild World for me, actually. He wanted me to release it as a single after Eloise, and I didn't. I put it on an album, so he gave it to, I think, Jimmy Cliff. Was a big hit with it.
So, Barry, already, Paul, when he announced that he didn't want to go on, he'd already been writing a few songs, though. Is that right?
Yeah.
So, what was in your mind when he said, look, Barry, I can't go on? Was it his suggestion to go on as a solo act for you?
To be frank with you, Nick, I never gave it a second thought. I just thought, Paul doesn't want to do it, that's cool with me. I want, you know, he's my brother. I want him to be happy. I don't really care if I stand on stage on my own. But I liked it before because we had a lot of fun together on stage. But if he didn't want to do it, that was cool. Immediately just thought, right, I'll sing solo. Paul can do the writing, which he really wanted to do. And he was starting to come up with some good stuff. And I thought, you know, this could really work.
So Paul and Barry Ryan were at Decca Records, is that right?
Decca, yeah.
Did the contract still apply?
Yeah, they were absolutely fine. You know, we sort of went to the record company and they were okay with it. And I brought one song out called Goodbye. That was my first solo record, which was very aptly named Nick.
Yes.
We sold about 4 copies. So that one didn't really hit it. And then the second track was Eloise. By that time, Paul was signed up with a publishing company, Carlin Music, and became really a songwriter at Carlin. And it was actually the second song he ever wrote.
That's not a bad effort.
Well, you may as well start at the top, that's what I say.
Yeah, exactly. Was there a girl called Eloise, Barry?
No, I'll tell you where we got the name from. New York, the Plaza Hotel. There was a famous girl called Eloise, a cartoon character. And there were a series of books written by Kate, I can't remember her name. But there were very famous books in America by a little scampy girl called Eloise, who lived at the Plaza Hotel. Paul saw a postcard of her at the hotel, and something must have connected with the name. He loved the name. And then actually, he heard, I'll give you an exclusive here, Nick, he heard an ad for Kellogg's Cornflakes on TV. I remember this, I thought of this the other day, which sort of went ba, 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 ba. It had this funny sort of horn intro, and he must have grabbed it. He said, God, that's really catchy. And I think he based the intro of Eloise on that. And things, you know, you always have to get some kind of influence when you start something. And it really all moulded from there.
Tell me about manic laughing at the very start of the song.
Oh, yeah, that's actually only on the album. A sort of, you know, the first album we did together was, you know, a sort of concept type thing. You know, they were very grandiose, these tracks that ran into each other, and everything was linked together. So that was the end of the previous track. It'd be fun to keep it on.
Because I've got the CD, and the CD starts off with the manic laughing.
No, that's actually not on the single, just on the actual CD.
I want to ask you about the opening track, theme to Utopia. What is Utopia?
Well, Utopia, I suppose, everyone's got a different version of Utopia. You know, it's kind of the perfect peaceful place, isn't it, really, if you take it literally. And Paul's Utopia, I think, was sitting in front of a piano and feeling secure and safe and not having to go out on the road and just kind of, you know, create really beautiful music. So I suppose that was his sense of utopia, really.
Of course, the single was a huge success, and when I mentioned, I'm going to interview Barry Ryan, everyone knows Eloise, and a wide age range knows Eloise. And one of my colleagues here says, that's a great song, but also Barry is in such fine voice. His vocal performance is absolutely brilliant in that. So obviously, I don't know, you did well in the studio. Was there something that inspired you?
Well, to be honest with you, Nick, what happened was interesting. What happened with Eloise, because when I first sang it, I'll just give you a very quick story about it, because it's quite interesting. We didn't go in the studio to record Eloise. We went in the studio to sing to record a song called Better Use Your Head. And I did a version, and my mum did a version as well, would you believe?
Actually saw that on YouTube.
Yeah, and we had about 20 minutes left at the end of the session. And Johnny Arthur, the arranger, had worked on Eloise. He loved it. And he said, look, we've got the 20 minutes, let's just do Eloise. So we only managed to do 2 takes, because it's like it was about 10 minutes a take, And we did 2 takes of it. And the second take, I knew we had something special, Nick, because all the musicians came up to the mixing box to hear it. Musicians never, ever did that. They were session guys. They couldn't care less. But it was packed with the people who just played it. I thought, I've never seen this before. Never, ever seen this before. And you just knew we'd done something special. I don't know, you can't explain it. It's just a kind of feeling you get. So when I sang it very soft and quietly, like a love song. And it didn't work, and we were really kind of at a loss as to how to approach the track. And Paul said, look, a couple of days later after we heard it, he said, look, why don't you sing it much harder and louder and sort of with a very strong voice, more angrily, like the girls kind of left you or something. And I did, and then, of course, immediately it kind of clicked.
I've interviewed a few artists, and their biggest hit, they said, look, somehow lightning gets grabbed in the bottle. It's just one of those things you can't...
That's good, I like that.
Yeah, you can't recapture it, you can't do it, you've just got to hope for the best. Barry, so Eloise was a big hit, and then came the album, because I was thinking Paul was basically an untried songwriter, so for the record company to let him write an entire album. So I assume that was because of the success of Eloise, is that correct?
I presume so. It's something that never really came up. I mean, no one ever sort of thought of it like that, because we're obviously quite happy the song was a big hit and thought, hang on, let this guy do his own thing, And for me as well, we never actually said to the record company, look, we're going to do an album together, take it or leave it. It just kind of happened, really. Everyone was just quite happy with the way things were going. And I think if something works, Nick, you don't fix it, do you?
You can't argue with success, Barry.
Exactly.
I suppose when you do a song like that, then the pressure is on to try and follow it up. And we recently interviewed Barry Maguire, another Barry, and he had Eve of Destruction, and everyone knows Eve of Destruction, but it just casts such a huge shadow. I mean, he's done so much other stuff, so much other good stuff too. So there would have been pressure on you, would I be right in saying that, to come up with a follow-up?
Yeah, of course there is. But I don't know if pressure is the right word. You don't really do that to yourself. What you do is you go in the studio and you just write the next big hit, hopefully. And of course, everyone does that. But God has a funny sense of humour, Nick. He only picks 1 or 2 of you. So that everyone, when they go in the studio, thinks they're doing something wonderful, or they wouldn't bother. So all you can do is you can just go in there and do what you feel is right, which is what we did. And like I said, Steve, in the meantime, Cat Stevens, had gave me Wild World and said, let's make a great follow-up. And I thought, no, it's not the right feel, it's not the right kind of vibe, as Eloise. And Paul came up with a song called Love is Love, which I actually loved. I thought it was wonderful. It was big and grandiose, the same kind of feel, and very hard to sing, much harder than Eloise to sing. And it's a real sod to sing that song. But I love doing it, and I thought it was a really, really good second song.
Barry, correct me if I'm wrong, that you recorded 4 albums within this period?
Yes.
And you're doing, the internet is a wonderful thing, because I've found so many Barry Ryan songs, and I think we've accumulated over 100, which is remarkable. And look, I don't think there's one real dud in there, I've got to tell you. They're all...
Oh, I don't know, Nick. There's a couple of beauties, I think, but there you go.
Well, don't name them, because I might like them.
All right.
Eloise, you're established, and so that, I hate referring back to other interviews, but another artist said, a song like Eloise is your anchor, and that gives you momentum for the next 3, 4, 5 years, a big hit like that. So you were touring, you were doing the normal pop rock star thing, appearing on TV and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I just, that was sort of took off. It was my first big hit in Europe. which I'd never had. My first hit worldwide, really. Except America, who really messed it up horribly by chopping it down to 2.5 minutes. Can you imagine that from 5.5? The middle out, they stripped the beginning and the end off. They just wrecked, they butchered it, really. Ruined it, and it didn't sell. It got in the top 25, I think. And it would have been a massive hit now in retrospect in America. They couldn't get the idea of playing a 5-minute record on the radio.
Barry, when did you start writing?
Me? I started writing, Nick, in the sort of mid-70s. I'm not a very good songwriter. I mean, I've written a few bits and bobs which I kind of like, a couple of tracks. But, I mean, Paul, to be honest, had more originality in his little finger than... I think you've got to stick to what you're good at.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a reasonably good photographer and a reasonably good singer, but not really a very good songwriter.
Yeah.
No, you're not meant to say yeah, Nick. You're meant to disagree with me.
Well, look, I've heard the Paul Ryan stuff and I've heard the Barry Ryan stuff, and while I was doing a research, found a copy of Scorpio Rising. That's a fantastic album too.
I love it, Nick. There's some wonderfully original, beautiful, heart-rendering moments on that piece of music. I mean, there really, really is. And in a way, I'm not sure Paul got the recognition he deserved as a writer. I think he did with a few bits, particularly obviously tracks like Eloise, and he wrote for Sinatra and a few people, but I don't really think he... It's hard to explain, really recognises the kind of original writer that he was.
Obviously, it wasn't a financial success, Scorpio Rising, but did he follow it up? Did he try and follow it up?
He did a few things. He did a few tracks, but he didn't really have much success as an artist. Just something he wanted to do. I don't think he was actually that bothered, to be honest with you, Nick. I think he just really loved being in the studio. He loved creating. Paul was never happier when he was at a keyboard working and trying to put something new together, and he really went for it, and they didn't always succeed, but sometimes it did, and when it did, it was wonderful.
Now, Barry, about the mid-70s, I'm guessing, is when you sort of gave it away as a full-time career, would that be correct? Mid-70s?
Yeah, I kind of gave up, really. I'd sort of had enough, we've been singing for sort of like 10, 12 years, and I also discovered alcohol, which turned out not to be my friend. So that kind of didn't help. And I kind of lost the plot a bit, and I went shopping, for a few years, and just kind of really... I don't know, Nick. I just did the really, I became a bit self-destructive, I suppose. It's a classic kind of thing, really. I got through it and survived.
Part of the job description
I think
there,
it is, really, which is sad, but, that's kind of, when you give a young guy fame and money, sometimes it's not a great, set of ingredients, really.
There's a great, I think it's a book and a movie, Too Much Too Soon, The Life of John Barrymore. He was a classic success story and a classic alcoholic.
Yeah, that's it. And, the sort of, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what alcoholism is, and I'm not really that bothered. I just know that, it affected me badly, and luckily I got through it, and I've had a drink for like 25 years now. That was way, way in the past, and thank God for it.
Now, around this time, am I correct? I read on the net that you married a sultana.
I did. I married a princess, Princess Mariam of Johor. We're still good friends, actually. She lives out in America now. Yeah, we've been living together for a couple of years, and we decided to get hitched up finally. So
the pop career ends, and when did the photography start with you, Barry?
It started... obviously from the other end of the camera, Nick, being in front of it. And I used to watch photographers. I'd always painted. Paul and I were really sort of avid artists when we were kids. We were never without a sort of paintbrush in our hand. And even at our school where we went, there were always our paintings everywhere. We both loved to paint. I was at a session one day in London, a friend of mine, Krista Peters, who was taking that portrait you saw on the Barry Ranson's Paul Ryan album, black and white picture. She was taking that, and I just looked at the studio and the whole vibe of the place, and we got chatting. I said, I'd love to swap ends of this camera, Krista, and maybe just try it from the other end of the lens. So she gave me one of her old cameras, an old Nikon, and I loaded it with film, got a little dark room together in my flat. And the first time I saw that print come through, Nick, I thought, my God, how lucky can I be? I can see here a second career for me, two things I've always loved to do. And I've had these two jobs in my life, Nick, which have never been jobs to me, singing and photography, and I'm a pretty lucky guy, really.
Well, you just have the knack, is that it?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how it works. You just kind of do what you do, and you let other people be the judge. I know there's probably millions of great photographs lying around in drawers that no one's ever going to see, that people have shot because they just don't feel, they're professional enough. But with me, photography is not about what camera you've got or what equipment you have. It's It's what you actually see, not what you look at.
On your website, barryryan.net, you've got some amazing photographs. How does one, A, become a professional photographer, and how do you get access to some of these remarkable people that you've got on your website?
Answer to the first part of that question is you buy a camera and you take pictures, and you take more pictures, and you take more pictures. And if you're good enough, you'll become a professional photographer. And if you're not, you won't. And sometimes you will become a professional photographer and you're not good enough. I mean, I've seen that happen a few times. You'll become like the sort of flavour of the month for a month, and that's that. As far as famous people, I just wrote letters to people. There's a couple of, people I know on those pictures, like Sting and McCartney, from sort of my music past, and they were fine. But other people I just wrote to, I didn't know, sort of Margaret Thatcher or Anthony Hopkins or Ronald Reagan. I just kind of wrote letters to them, and funny enough, a lot of them answered. I was quite shocked, actually. I remember when Ronald Reagan's office called us here. It was so funny, Nick. My wife got it. She thought it was one of my friends taking the mickey. So she started joking with him. And she said, "Come on, who is this really?" I remember that.
He must have been an Eloise fan.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the poor guy, at the time, I went out to LA to shoot that picture, and I actually liked that picture. It's got a kind of pathos to it, but he was becoming quite ill, I could see, Nick. I think his Alzheimer's was just starting to kick in, and I could see that he was kind of slightly vague, more than normal. But he was actually a really nice guy. He was really gracious, and sat in for an hour with us and told us wonderful stories about his life. I took my stepson with me, and he was really fab.
Let's fast forward to the late 80s, where did you attempt a comeback? I've found a few songs there that are very 80s sounding and are very good. I'm quite surprised because I'm not a big fan of the 1980s music, but am I correct?
Well, no, what I did was I sit sometimes, when I've got like a 3 or 4 days up, I'll just sit at my piano. I've got a little studio in my garden here, which is actually a posh hut. But it's somewhere where I can lock myself away and get my work done. And just really, I just put things together. And sometimes I send them to fans, and they put them out on the internet. There's a couple of songs like Break the Circle and The Forces With You. The tracks have never been released. I just thought it's nice to give them to people. But I don't really do it on a commercial basis, Nick. I do it because I just actually like to write songs. I'm not very interested in getting an album deal going or anything like that. I mean, it's nice to go on stage. I miss being on stage. That I really like. And I'm beginning to miss that a lot now, funnily enough. So I'm actually putting a few things together now to sort of make some performances. I think it might be nice. Like I say, it's kind of, I'm at the stage in my life, I'm kind of 62 now. Before I become a sort of old bloke, I'd like to get out there and do some concerts.
In the meantime, I just want to parallel Paul. So after you basically stopped being a pop singer, was Paul just tinkling away on his piano? What was he up to in that time?
Yeah, well, he got married and he had a little a baby, and he just bought a new house in Fulham, and had his studio, and he was just writing and creating, and then of course he got very ill and died really suddenly and quickly, and everyone was really, really shocked, as you can imagine.
It would have been a shock to everyone because your mother would have been alive at that time.
Yeah, she was. And he wasn't ill very long. He got this horrible, virulent, terrible form of cancer, and he died within a couple of months.
What sort of cancer was it, Barry?
It was a lung cancer, but it was a really, really, really aggressive one, and it was the worst kind, and there's basically there's nothing you can do about it, and funny enough, he was fine about the whole thing. I mean, what I found amazing about my brother is how incredibly gracious he was about the whole thing. It didn't freak him out at all. He said, well, it's the end of my life, so be it. I'm sad, I'll miss you all, I'm sure you'll miss me, but that's God's plan for me. He wasn't a religious guy, but I saw then that he was actually quite a spiritual guy, and he was actually okay. A
tragic passing because, well, we lost a great songwriter as well.
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate you saying.
The more Barry Ryan songs I hear, especially the Paul Ryan songs, no offence, Barry, but they're just really, really remarkable songs, not just Eloise and Love Is Love. But for this interview, I've done a lot of investigating, and I've come up with some fabulous songs that I'd never heard of before. And we're going to be playing them.
You're right. Shall I tell you something, Nick? You're absolutely right about that. Paul was a fabulous writer, and the more I listen to some of those tracks, because I don't really listen to my music at all, but every now and then I'll get on YouTube and I'll put one of Paul's songs on that, and I'll listen to a few of them with quite objective ears, funnily enough, because it's been so long since I heard them. And you're quite right to say that. There are some wonderful pieces of music there. And I'm not saying that from my point of view as a singer. I'm saying it from Paul's point of view as kind of a creative man who tried to do a few things quite differently. The influences there, which are incredible on that. I heard a track the other day, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. And it just had a kind of vibe that we call Magical Spiel, which I absolutely love. It's just a great pop song. it's almost Beatlesque. It's really, really good.
And a great title, Magical Spiel.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Paul was great.
That's what I've got to ask. You sang quite a few songs in German.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I kind of became very big in Germany, so I think that's just a kind of another revenue stream for the record company. I didn't speak German. I sing German, but I don't speak it. And they just sort of said, look, would you do a few in German? I said, I'll do it in Martian if it sells, It was kind of what you did in those days. I think I've sang in Italian and French, all kinds of languages. I've even done a few in English.
Yeah, I've noticed that. So what did they do? They give you like a phonetic...
They sit you with a coach for a few hours. I mean, there was one song they called Zeit macht nur vor dem Teufel, which is a German version of Today, a song Paul wrote called Today. And I went out to Germany. It became a very big hit. And I was doing a TV show, a lip sync thing. And just before the show started, they said, actually, Barry, it's live. We don't do lip syncing on the show.
Oh, no.
So I said, oh, my God. So I sat in my dressing room for about an hour and a half. And I learned this song. And I was probably singing about sort of sausages. I have absolutely no idea what it sounds like. But someone told me I almost pulled it off.
Oh, look, who knows? You might have sold some bratwurst while the show was on air. Barry, how do you spend your time at the moment? So you're a full-time photographer, so that's your job?
It is. It's my job. I'm a bit of a layabout these days, Nick, to be honest with you. I love to do nothing. And funny enough, I had dinner a couple of weeks ago with Matt LeBlanc, Joey from Friends. And he was with some friends of mine. We all went out to eat. And he was talking about being an expert in doing sod all, which I thought was wonderful. And I actually wouldn't mind taking that one on board. The problem is, I don't know if you're the same, Nick, I'm not very good at lying down and doing nothing for more than 2 days. And then I have to be creative. I've got this mind where I've got to make things. So at the moment, I'm doing a couple of new exhibitions of my photography concept stuff and putting some ideas. I might even be coming out to Australia next year. I'm talking with a few people out there. Be nice to go there, take some pictures.
Take some pictures? Do any singing as well?
Yeah, I'd come out and see you guys. Sing some songs and take some pictures. I do both. Sometimes when I'm on stage, I'll pick my camera up and start photographing the audience.
So you can do them at the same... Barry, you are a genuine talent. You can sing and take pictures at the same time.
At the same time, and chew. How about that? So I got all three in there, Nick.
Well done. Well, look, I mean, we'd love to see you here in whatever manner, with your camera or with your microphone or whatever. It'd be a pleasure. We really love your music and it will live on forever. Paul's as well as your music will live forever as long as humankind has got the internet.
It's a funny thing, when you say it like that, but I suppose these legacies, sometimes you sit down and you think, hang on, what have I actually done? And then I listen to a song like Eloise, and I think, my God, I've got a classic pop song. How lucky am I? Gary Booker told me that once. He said, I sat down one day and I got really down about my career, and I thought, hang on, I've got White a Shade of Pale, one of the great pop songs. How lucky am I? And we are lucky, Nick, because as you know, you can go down to your local pub tonight and there'll be a band slogging away there, and it's not going to happen for them. And that happens all over the world every night to hundreds and thousands of musicians. And I'm sitting there and I've got, Eloise, and I'm a lucky man.
Well, look, I also want to tell you that girl Claire, I was just researching for the interview and I just dug that song up, Claire, and the DJ who's in the other studio live right now, Scott, it's a friend of his, and he said, this is my friend Claire. I said, oh, hello, Claire. I was just found a song on the internet called Claire, and I brought her over to the computer. I played the song, and Claire, she loved the song, and that's how it spread. So it exists there. The songs exist there in the ether, and eventually they will get heard. Yeah.
They will. But there's something that's just occurred to me. There's a lovely synchronicity to what you just said when you said they're in the ether. Because I once asked my brother, how do you write a song? And he said exactly what you said. Just then, it's up there in the ether. You pull it down, you're like a conduit. And then you just said it goes back there. So there's a lovely sort of synchronicity to that statement.
There you go. I'm psycho. All right, Barry, look, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much for taking time to talk with us.
I've really enjoyed it. It's been good talking to you.
We've enjoyed it too, and thanks for all the songs.
Thanks a lot. You're welcome.